If you've been paying attention, you probably noticed the economy is not doing well. Now we are starting to see the stock market is starting to reflect that as well. The Dow has fallen 900 points. 900 points. Are we headed towards a collapse? What does this mean in the grand scheme of things? And what does Donald Trump have to say about this? We're going to get started with this clip here from Morning Joe. Of course, they dived into this as well. Check this out.
Of course, Washington buzzing about the question Donald Trump didn't answer.
Yeah, well, he isn't ruling out the possibility that the United States could head into a recession this year as his economic policies cause uncertainty on Wall Street. Take a listen.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time. But I think it should be great for us. I mean, I think it should be great.
So as Joe showed, the front page of the Wall Street Journal this morning reports on how investors rattled by the threat of trade restrictions and a slowing economy are now turning to a classic defensive play, dividend stocks. And with Americans remaining concerned about inflation and the looming threat of tariffs, consumer confidence fell sharply last month, the largest one-month drop since 2021. Meanwhile, layoffs among U.S. employers in February were up 245% from the month
of February. Let's pause here. We'll pause it right there on the job market. I hate to say I told you so, guys, that we were heading in this direction. Now, what's interesting to note here is part of this has to do with the tariffs, which I did forewarn you about. I told you that those tariffs on Canada and Mexico would impact us here in the United States. So part of it has to do with that. Part of it also has to do with the fact that despite what this next clip is going to tell you, the economy was not great. They're saying that the economy was great when Donald Trump came to office. That is not the case. The economy was not great. It was better than it was a year ago, but it wasn't in the best shape. But this is what I've been sounding the alarm about. Like when the Dow drops like 900 points, this is serious. When you see this report here that the U.S. has announced job cuts, it surged to 245%. That is serious. Regardless who is president at that time, our economy is having a problem. Now, I talked about the job loss under Biden's presidency. I'm talking about the job loss under Trump's presidency. I talked about the stock market fall under Biden. I'm talking about the stock market fall under Donald Trump. I talked about the economy under Biden. I'm talking about the economy under Donald Trump. Now, I know many are going to say, well, he just got there, give him time. I get that. But you have to understand that some of this is because of the tariffs. And we're going to go to another clip here that gets into that a little bit, where they show you the numbers. You need to see the numbers that the stock market is reflecting. Check this out.
Okay, let me start with what's happened overnight. Meltdown is the only way to describe what we've seen in the U.S. markets overnight, as recession fears are back and they've gripped the street. The Dow plunged nearly 900 points overnight. You've had the NASDAQ down 700 points, 4% in a painful session of trade.
We got to pause here. NASDAQ, for people who are not familiar, that's tech, right? All of us use technology. So that there's a hit there in the tech sector as well.
Look at the futures. I want to pull up Dow futures just for a second at least and see where we're going after that huge hit on U.S. markets. I mean, we can't take much heart from that 55 points in the green. Treasury yields have also slid as recession fears grow, the 10-year at 4.16. Crude has slumped on tariff fears. Brent is below $69 a barrel. I mean, you would think all said and done, cheaper crude, yields coming off, good for India. But the reasons is what's worrying, which is why you're going to see a negative on the implied open as far as India is concerned as well. So
That's the crude oil. Remember, I warned you about what would happen with oil?
Now the question is, what are these recession fears that seem to have come in the last 48 hours, and where are they coming from? So let me break that down for you. First, what the White House has said on the market crash, because there was actually a statement coming in. And the statement from the White House is, we're seeing a strong divergence between animal spirits of the stock market and what we're actually seeing unfold from business and business leaders. Let me break that down to you for what it actually means. It's essentially that what the stock markets are doing is reactive, but it's going to be good for business. The start of all of this is an interview by US President Trump to Fox News, where he was asked specifically, do you think there's going to be a recession? And he says, I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because of what we're doing is very big. Now, that's a statement that has sparked off all the fears. And we told you about this in yesterday's show as well, at the same time, that this statement that we're going through a period of transition is something that the street is not liking. It was actually echoed in a way by something that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, also said. And he described it as a detox. He says the market and the economy have just become hooked. We've become addicted to this government spending, and there's going to be a detox period. Now, call it a transition, call it a detox, call it panic, what you will. The screen is only showing pain at this point.
Yeah, only showing pain at this point. And let me break this down a little bit better for you guys. So basically, to make a long story short, Donald Trump said that he cannot rule out that we will not have a recession, right? And that caused alarm for a lot of people, not just in the media space, but in particular on social media, right? People are like, what are you talking about, right? So part of this is because of the tariffs, but his idea is that people will feel pain for a short period of time, and then we'll be back up on the upswing because the jobs will come back to the United States. So here's my answer to that. If you want manufacturing, and in particular, those manufacturing jobs here in the United States, you would put that in place before you were to take this route, because there's no guarantee that by doing this, that these jobs are going to come back to the United States. There's no guarantee in that. I think that's what he's hoping would happen, but there's no guarantee. In the meantime, people who are poor, people who are low income, they're feeling the pain. I don't know when was the last time you guys went to the grocery store, but I was just there yesterday. The prices are high. They're still high. They're still high. The prices didn't decrease. I don't know why people, all of a sudden, some people stopped talking about the high grocery prices as if this isn't a thing anymore. The prices are still high, right? So we do have this issue. We do have this problem. Now, I mentioned that because when I get to this video here, this young woman that is on MSNBC, she is going to paint a different picture. She's going to tell you that the economy was great when Donald Trump came into office. That's actually not true. We've been complaining about the grocery prices for the longest time. Listen to this.
Weeks into Trump's second term. What's your take? How is the U.S. economy?
Trump inherited what was actually an excellent economy. Whether or not voters recognized it last November, we had very low unemployment, cooling, if not cool enough, inflation, strong GDP growth. We were, hopefully still are to some extent, the envy of the world. And the best thing Trump could have done for this U.S. economy is just nothing at all. Like,
pause. So a couple of things that I take issue with what she said. No, the economy was not great when he took office. The eggs were still high. The grocery prices were still high when he came into office. That didn't change. If you guys have been paying attention, these grocery store prices did not decrease. like the prices have still been high, right? So you can tell like who can afford to pay higher prices and who can't. You can tell the people who don't have to look at the price of something, they can just purchase it. And there are people like that. When you look at a lot of these people, especially a lot of the ones that come on MSNBC, CNN, a lot of these people, they can go to the grocery store and they don't have to look at the price. They can just grab items and put them in their grocery cart and then just pay when they get to the register. The rest of us have to look at prices. I'm just keep it real. And we try to go with the lowest price possible if we can, or if it's still too high, we just don't get it. And I grew up that way, right? I grew up that way, even though my family was in the military, and the military does pay for a lot of things. When I went grocery shopping with my parents, they still had to look at prices. So That's the reality. To the second part that she mentions here was just leave it alone, right? That's kind of a slap in the face to people who are lower income, right? Because what she's saying is, she said he shouldn't do anything, so nothing should have been done for working class people. So you have, once again, both parties still failing the working class. Now, what does this mean for us, right? Let her go on a little bit more here.
Go play golf and let the trends continue as they are. Instead, he seems to be hell-bent on sabotaging it. I mean, whether or not he recognizes that that's what he's doing, that is what he's doing. I have argued for years that presidents get too much credit when things are good, too much blame when things are bad. They get too much responsibility. They don't control the economy. It really feels like Trump is single-handedly trying to disprove me by doing undertaking all of these policies that are very detrimental, whether we're talking about raising prices through tariffs or raising the tariffs and suspending the tariffs and raising the tariffs again and again, which creates more uncertainty, which makes it almost impossible for businesses to make investment decisions, or other kinds of sabotage, things like threatening to deport large chunks of critical labor forces in agriculture, for example, picking fights with the Federal Reserve. All of those things are bad for economic stability, verging on, potentially dragging on economic growth and raising the threat, I will say, not definitively dooming us to recession or stagflation, but certainly raising the threat of those outcomes.
You do.
So here's the thing I want to bring up as well. And I tried to tell people that this would be an issue. And JB calls it out here. Professor Richard Wolff said that a recession happens every 4 to 7 years. Our last one was during the pandemic. So we are on time for a new recession. Trump is not making it better with tariffs either. And that's the part. And thank you so much for saying that, JB. That's the part I really wanted to drive home here, because we are due for another recession. So whether Trump won or Kamala won, it was inevitable. It was already leaning in that direction. Now, when we talk about these tariffs, though, I told you that it would impact us here in the United States. I warned you that the cost of things would increase. It's just a reality. Now, Ontario, I want to bring this up here. They have now decided to back off this, but they were threatening a 25% tax increase on electricity exports to the United States in response to Trump's trade war. And this is one of the things I tried to warn people about. Again, they just backed off of this, but this was a threat that they were, putting our way. Ontario's premier, the leader of Canada's most populous province, announced that effective Monday, it is charging 25% more for electricity to 1.5 million American homes and businesses in response to Trump's trade war. They provide electricity to Minnesota, New York, and Michigan. So this is another thing, what I said before, right? Which is that, and here's him here, which is what I said before. People don't realize just how much we get from other countries, how much we get from Canada, how much we get from Mexico. And luckily, he decided to back off of this. But if this were to happen, that means that you would now see a higher utility bill. And I don't know about you guys, but this past winter, utilities have been extremely high. In fact, in Massachusetts, utilities have increased since the war with Ukraine, and they've continued to increase. I know one person in particular, I'm not going to say their name because they probably don't want their name out there like that, but I know one person in particular lives in a 1-bedroom apartment here in Massachusetts, and their utility bill has been $400 a month. That's with the heat kept at minimum. Everything went up. So imagine if he would have gone through with this. Luckily, he's not, thank goodness. But if he would have gone through with it, imagine how that would have impacted you. I don't know about you, but I don't want a higher utility bill. I don't want higher grocery prices. They're already high. So I said it before, the tariffs, not a good idea. Yes, it looks like we could be headed towards a recession. And all I can say to people is to just buckle up, buckle up, because when I warned people about this, I've been talking about this for the past couple of years about how the prices were continuing to increase. And it's all coming back to me now that here we are again, And some of the people who didn't say anything under the Biden administration when the prices were higher, or their response was that voters just don't know how to read prices, apparently. Voters don't understand what's happening right in front of their face. Now that Trump's president, now they're calling it out. But when we had price increase under Joe Biden and we had unemployment issues under Joe Biden, they made excuses for it because that's their party. So again, what we have to understand is when it comes to economics, regardless if it's Republican or Democrat that's in power, everybody can look at prices with their own eyes and they can tell if the price is increased or not, damn it. So hopefully we get out of this mess and we do not head towards a recession, but that job loss number is very concerning. And we had job loss increase under Biden's presidency as well. And I'm starting to see a trend. Biden was in office for 4 years. We're in another administration and we're still seeing this issue with the job numbers. So that's a problem. Let's go to some of the comments over here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, John. Do you think Bill Maher will wish for a recession so Dems can win in 2026 and 2028, just like he wished for a recession so Donald Trump would lose in 2020? I wouldn't put it past Bill Maher because here's the thing. He's rich and a recession isn't going to affect him the way that it would affect the average American, right? So, Tim, you heard about Nebraska going bankrupt because of the lack of immigrant work, Sabby. I did hear about that. I did warn people about that if you didn't have something else in place, that's what you would be facing, right? Nebraska, there's a lot of farmers in Nebraska, so that didn't surprise me. Thank you, Marlon. I declared my independence. I feel good. Da-da-da-da. I knew that I would. Now I'm a registered independent. That's what I'm talking about, Marlon. That's what I'm talking about. I want more people to change your voter registration to an independent. That's what I'm saying. Like, declare yourself independent of these parties, for real. Shout out to Marlon for doing the damn thing. Alan said they don't care about the poor. No. Reginald, Sabby, if you're in the American military, it's below poverty and most personnel were receiving food stamps. It depends on the rank. I mean, my family didn't receive food stamps. I was also an only child for a long, long time. It was a while before, I got a sibling, and it depends on the rank. So keep that in mind as well. Thank you, New York Varsity. Under Biden, they said inflation was down, but at the same time, groceries were up 22%. What happened then? The price of a BMW went down $5,000? I know, right? Thank you, Trusting Success. Proof the economy was bad. Trump won because his campaign focused on bettering a trash economy. And JB says a looming recession plus Doge trying to change Social Security spells disaster. Yes, it does. Again, we have to ask ourselves, who are they looking out for, right? They're not looking out for the working class at this point in time. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.